I never knew silence could be this loud. The clinking of silverware, the murmur of conversation, the occasional burst of laughter from another table, all of it felt distant, muted, like I was hearing the world from underwater. But inside me, a storm was raging. Laura stood in front of me, her arms crossed, her lips pressed together in a thin, determined line. Her eyes burned with something I couldn't quite place. Defiance? Victory? Maybe both. Stay and listen, or walk away. She said it like it was a fair choice, as if there was an option where I didn't lose. The restaurant had gone eerily quiet, like the world itself had paused to watch my life fall apart. A few tables away, a waiter froze mid-step, his tray trembling in his hands. A couple at the bar turned their heads, their conversation forgotten. I started between us, some curious, others embarrassed to be witnessing something so personal unfold in real time. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. I should have seen this coming. I should have noticed the signs. But I hadn't. Let me take you back to how it all started. Laura and I had been married for 9 years. Not perfect years, but solid ones. We weren't one of those couples who pretended to be madly in love every second of every day, but we were good together, or at least, I thought we were. I worked in software development. Long hours, sure, but they paid well. Laura, on the other hand, had a job she claimed to love, marketing for some trendy lifestyle brand. She had always been outgoing, always the center of attention in any room. She could charm her way into or out of anything, and I loved that about her. Until I didn't. Until I realized I had been the one getting played. The first crack appeared about 6 months ago. Laura started going out more. Work dinners, she called them. Networking events. Happy hours. She had never been a homebody, but it was different this time. There was an urgency to her absences, a kind of excitement that had nothing to do with business meetings. She smelled different when she came home. Not perfume, exactly, just different. And then, there was the phone, always in her hand, always tilted away from me when she texted. I should have confronted her sooner. I should have asked questions before the answers became too obvious to ignore. But I didn't. I convinced myself I was imagining things, that I was being paranoid. Then, 2 weeks ago, I found the message. It wasn't even hidden. It popped up on her phone screen while it was sitting on the kitchen counter. A preview of a text. 7 words that ripped the floor out from under me. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. I stared at it, my breath caught in my throat. I didn't recognize the number. There was no name attached to it. But I knew. I knew. My hand shook as I reached for the phone, but just as I picked it up, Laura walked into the room. She froze for a split second, then recovered so fast that if I hadn't been watching closely, I might have missed it. You're snooping through my phone now, she snapped, snatching it from my hand. Jesus, Everett, have some trust. Trust. I laughed. I actually laughed. A short, bitter sound that didn't even feel like my own voice. She didn't try to explain the text. She didn't deny it. Instead, she went on the offensive, twisting it around until suddenly, I was the bad guy. The insecure husband. The jealous one. But she knew. She knew the game was up. For the next 2 weeks, we barely spoke. She pretended everything was fine. I let her. I wasn't ready for the confrontation, not yet. I needed proof. So I waited. And tonight, I finally got it. When Laura invited me to dinner at this fancy restaurant, I almost didn't come. Something felt off. Too forced. Too rehearsed. But against my better judgment, I went. And now, I stood here, watching my wife, no, the stranger in front of me, giving me an ultimatum in front of an audience. Stay and listen, or walk away. I clenched my jaw. My heartbeat thundered in my ears. She thought I would stay. She thought I would play my part in whatever script she had written for tonight. She was wrong. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my wallet, and dropped a few bills onto the table. Then, without a word, I grabbed my keys, turned my back to her, and walked out. I didn't look back. Not even once. The night air hit me like a shock to the system, cold, sharp, real. My steps were steady as I walked to my car, but inside, my mind was a battlefield. This was it. The end of everything I had spent almost a decade building. And the worst part? I wasn't even sure if I was more heartbroken or just exhausted. I got in my car, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My body was still in that restaurant, still standing there, still staring at Laura as she gave me that smug, calculated ultimatum. Stay and listen, or walk away. She really thought she had control. She really thought she could dictate how this ended. I exhaled sharply and turned on the ignition. The engine hummed to life, But I didn't drive off immediately. I just sat there, staring at the restaurant through the windshield, watching as shadows moved behind the large glass windows. What was she doing now? Was she celebrating her victory? Laughing it off with whoever had been waiting for this moment? I had no doubt someone was waiting, because Lauren never acted without an audience. I drove aimlessly for a while, turning down streets I barely recognized, letting my thoughts run wild. There was no going home. Not yet. The house, the one I had poured years of my life into, didn't even feel like mine anymore. It had become a crime scene, a place tainted by secrets I had ignored for far too long. I pulled into the first empty parking lot I found and leaned back against the headrest. My heartbeat had slowed, but the weight in my chest was unbearable. How did I let it get to this? How did I not see it coming? Except I had. I had seen every red flag, every late night out, every guarded phone screen, every excuse that never quite added up. But I had done what most people do. I had hoped. Hoped I was wrong. Hoped that the woman I married was still in there somewhere, beneath the arrogance, beneath the growing distance, beneath whatever had made her look me in the eye tonight and dare me to stay. I let out a bitter laugh. She thought I would stay. She counted on it. She had spent years learning my moves, learning my patience, learning exactly how to push me to the edge but never over it. Until tonight. Somewhere between replaying the night in my head and convincing myself to move, my phone buzzed. I almost didn't check it, but some masochistic part of me needed to see it. I glanced at the screen. Laura, wow? Dramatic much? You could have at least had a conversation like an adult instead of storming out like a child. I stared at the message, my grip on the phone tightening. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't panicked. She wasn't trying to fix things. She was mocking me. I should have deleted the message, thrown my phone into the passenger seat, ignored it completely. But my fingers had a mind of their own. Me, you wanted an answer. You got it. 3 dots appeared immediately, then stopped, then started again. I waited. Then the message came through. Laura, that's it? You're really going to throw everything away without even talking? Talking. As if I hadn't been trying to talk for months. As if I hadn't already known where this was going the moment I read that message on her phone 2 weeks ago. But what was there left to say? I started typing, then deleted it. I wasn't doing this over text. I wasn't playing whatever game she was trying to drag me into. Instead, I tossed my phone onto the seat and pulled out of the parking lot. I knew where I needed to go. By the time I pulled up to the house, the lights were on. She had beaten me home. Of course she had. She was waiting. For a fight? For an apology? For another chance to twist the knife? I wasn't sure, but I wasn't afraid to find out. I got out of the car, walked up the driveway, and unlocked the door. Inside, the house felt too warm, too still. It was suffocating. Then I heard movement. And there she was, standing in the kitchen, wine glass in hand, like nothing had happened. Like this wasn't the beginning of the end. She tilted her head slightly when she saw me, her expression unreadable. You left before I could explain, she said, her tone light, almost teasing. I let out a slow breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Explain what? I asked, crossing my arms. Why you've been lying to me. Why you're suddenly playing the victim. Her lips curled into a smirk. A smirk. God, I wanted to scream. But I didn't. Instead, I did something that finally wiped that smirk off her face. I pulled out my phone, opened the messages, and turned the screen toward her. Her eyes flickered to it for only a second before she rolled them dramatically, taking another sip of her wine. That's what this is about, she scoffed. Everett, come on. It's not what you think. I stepped closer. So tell me, what exactly am I thinking? She hesitated. That was all the answer I needed. I shook my head, shoving the phone back into my pocket. You know what? It doesn't matter. Because I'm done. Her smirk faltered. Done with what? This. I gestured between us. You. Us. Whatever twisted game you're playing. For the first time all night, something flickered across her face. Annoyance? Panic? I couldn't tell. She set the wine glass down with a sharp clink. You're really walking away, she said, her voice softer now. I nodded. Her mouth opened like she was about to say something, but I didn't wait. I turned, walked toward the stairs, and headed straight for the bedroom. Because I wasn't just leaving. I was packing my bags. And this time, there was no coming back. There's a strange kind of clarity that comes when you finally stop lying to yourself. As I stood in our bedroom, suitcase open on the bed, that clarity settled over me like a weighted blanket. Heavy, but grounding. My hands moved on autopilot, shoving clothes into the bag without thinking about what I was packing. It didn't matter. Nothing in this house mattered anymore. Downstairs, I could hear Laura moving, pacing. She wasn't used to losing control. She thought she knew me, thought I would cave, thought I would sit down and let her spin whatever twisted excuse she had prepared. But I was done listening. I reached into the closet and grabbed more clothes, barely processing what I was taking. Shirts, jeans, socks. I wasn't thinking about what came next, where I'd go, how I'd rebuild my life. All I knew was that I couldn't stay here. Not one more second. Footsteps. Then, her voice. Low, sharp, laced with irritation. Are you seriously packing? I ignored her. Zipped the suitcase. She stepped into the room, arms crossed, her expression shifting between frustration and disbelief. You're actually leaving. I finally met her gaze. Yeah, I said. I am. She scoffed, shaking her head. You're being ridiculous. You don't even know the full story. I laughed under my breath. The full story? You think I need more details? What? Should I sit down and let you explain how last night was amazing didn't mean what I thought it did? Her jaw tightened. It's not that simple. It never is with you, is it? I shot back, shoving the last of my things into the suitcase. Laura took a step closer. Everett, just stop for a second. Let's be rational. You can't just walk away from 9 years over. Over what? I cut in. Over your lies? Over you making me feel like an idiot for months while you did whatever the hell you wanted behind my back. Her lips parted slightly, like she was about to deny it. Then, she closed her mouth. No excuses left. That silence was all the proof I needed. I grabbed my suitcase and moved toward the door, but she blocked my path. You're really gonna do this? She said, her voice lower now. You're just gonna walk out and pretend like we never existed? I exhaled slowly, gripping the suitcase handle so tightly my fingers ached. You did that first. That hit something in her. I saw it in her eyes. But I didn't wait for a response. I stepped past her, brushing against her shoulder as I left the room. I had one foot on the stairs when she spoke again. I thought you were stronger than this, she muttered. Guess I was wrong. I stopped. Not because I was second-guessing myself. Not because I wanted to turn around. But because that was classic Laura. Twisting the knife. Trying to make me feel like the weak one. Like I was the one giving up, when in reality, she had thrown this marriage away long before I packed this bag. I turned my head slightly, just enough to glance at her over my shoulder. Yeah, I said. I guess we were both wrong about a lot of things. Then, I walked down the stairs. The house felt different on my way out. Colder. Emptier. Like something had shifted the second I decided I was done. I stepped outside, the night air hitting my skin. It smelled different out here. Crisp, real. Like the first breath after suffocating for too long. I reached my car and tossed the suitcase in the back seat. One last deep breath. One last glance at the house where my life had unraveled. Then, without hesitation, I got in and drove away. No second thoughts. No regrets. Just the road ahead. And for the first time in a long time, freedom. The further I drove, the more surreal it felt. Like I was floating outside my own body, watching my life play out from a distance. Watching myself leave behind 9 years of history. Of love, of pain, of every moment that had led up to tonight. The roads were dark, almost empty. The only sound was the low hum of my tires against the asphalt. My hands were steady on the wheel, but inside, my mind was a battlefield. There was no going back now. I had walked away, packed a bag, left the house that no longer felt like home. But now, an entirely different question loomed over me like a storm cloud. What next? Because leaving was only the first step. Now, I had to figure out where the hell I was going. I pulled into a gas station, parking under the bright fluorescent lights. I wasn't even sure why I stopped. I didn't need gas. I didn't need food. Maybe I just needed a second to breathe. I turned off the engine and leaned back, staring up at the ceiling of the car. For the first time since walking out, the weight of it all started to settle in. The end of my marriage. The loss of everything I had spent years building. The fact that, for the first time in almost a decade, I was truly, completely alone. A slow, bitter laugh escaped me. Laura probably wasn't alone right now. She was probably back at the house, texting him, whoever he was. Maybe she was already making plans. Maybe she had been making them long before tonight, long before I ever found that message. The thought made my stomach twist. I knew leaving her was the right choice. I knew it. But that didn't make it hurt any less. I reached for my phone, my fingers hovering over the screen. I wasn't sure what I was looking for. A distraction? A lifeline? A sign that I hadn't just detonated my entire life without a backup plan? Instead, I saw 3 unread messages. From Laura. I hesitated. Then, against my better judgment, I opened them. Laura, so this is really happening? Laura, you're seriously leaving me over a misunderstanding? Laura, you're being ridiculous, Everett. If you don't come back, you'll regret this. I exhaled slowly, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. I should have ignored her. I should have deleted the messages and blocked her number. But something about that last one, "You'll regret this," itched at me. It wasn't sadness. It wasn't remorse. It was a warning. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't panicking because she had lost me. She was panicking because she had lost control. I set my phone down, my mind racing. I had spent years trying to be the good husband, trying to keep things together, trying to ignore the red flags for the sake of what we used to be. But Laura? She had never been afraid to destroy things the moment they stopped benefiting her. I thought back to all the times she had turned arguments around on me. How she could twist the truth so skillfully that even I started doubting myself. And now, she was trying to do it again. Trying to rewrite history. Trying to make me believe I was the one throwing everything away, when in reality, she had checked out of our marriage long before I ever walked out that door. I wasn't falling for it this time. The gas station door chimed as I walked inside. The place was mostly empty, except for the cashier and some trucker filling a thermos with coffee. I grabbed a bottle of water, barely paying attention, my thoughts still tangled in the mess Laura had left behind. But as I approached the counter, I noticed something. A board near the register. Flyers pinned to it. Local motels. Temporary rentals. Storage units. And just like that, I had my answer. I wasn't going back. I wasn't sleeping in my car. I wasn't letting Laura dictate the next chapter of my life. I was starting over, on my terms. As I stepped back into the night, I could feel something shift. Maybe it wasn't peace. Not yet. But for the first time in a long time, it was something close. The motel room was exactly what you'd expect. A worn-out bedspread, a tiny TV mounted on the wall, and the faint smell of cigarette smoke that no amount of cheap air freshener could cover. It wasn't much. But for now, it was mine. I set my suitcase down by the door and exhaled, running a hand through my hair. The room felt hollow, but it was the first space in a long time that didn't feel like it belonged to her. No framed photos of our perfect marriage. No scent of her expensive perfume lingering in the air. Just 4 walls, a bed, and silence. A fresh start. Or at least, the beginning of one. I sat on the edge of the bed and reached for my phone, staring at the screen. It had been almost an hour since I left the house. 5 new messages. Laura, are you actually staying in a motel right now? Laura, this is pathetic, Everett. Come home. Laura, you think this is going to make me chase you? Laura, if you leave, I promise you'll regret it. Laura, fine. If this is how you want it, don't expect me to sit around waiting. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't begging me to come back. She was baiting me. Every word was a calculated move, an attempt to make me doubt myself, to make me believe that I was the one who had to fix this. Classic Laura. She wanted control, but she lost it the second I walked out that door. I tossed my phone onto the nightstand without responding. I wasn't playing her game anymore. For the next 2 hours, I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, letting the reality of it all sink in. I was free, but free didn't feel as good as I thought it would. Because beneath the relief, beneath the anger, beneath all the ways Laura had betrayed me, there was still grief. Not for her, not for what we used to be, but for the version of me that had spent 9 years believing in something that never existed. The version of me that thought love was enough. That man had died the moment I saw that text message. And now, I had to figure out who the hell I was without her. Somewhere between my thoughts, exhaustion finally took over. I didn't remember falling asleep, but I sure as hell remembered waking up. 3:14 a.m. A loud bang at the door. I jolted upright, my pulse spiking. For a split second, my half-asleep brain convinced me I was back home, that this was just another restless night, another sleep-deprived moment waiting for Laura to come home at some ungodly hour. But then I saw the room, the motel, and the pounding at the door started again. I swung my legs over the bed, rubbing the sleep from my eyes. Then, a voice. Everett, open the damn door. Laura. I froze. What the hell was she doing here? I stood there for a second, debating my options. I could ignore her, pretend I wasn't here. But I knew Laura. She wasn't the type to walk away. I crossed the room and opened the door just enough to see her standing there, arms folded, dressed in leggings and one of my old hoodies. A look of sheer determination on her face. "You're really making me come all the way out here," she snapped, pushing past me before I could stop her. I clenched my jaw, shutting the door behind her. "You shouldn't be here. And you shouldn't be here," she shot back, gesturing to the motel room. "Jesus, Everett. You think running away is going to fix anything?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Running away? That's rich, coming from you." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, here we go? Another pity party about how I'm the villain and you're just some poor, helpless husband who did nothing wrong." Something in me snapped. I took a step closer, lowering my voice. "You lied to me." Laura didn't flinch. "I never lied." I scoffed. "Really? So what was that text then?" She crossed her arms tighter, shifting her weight. "You don't know the full story." "I know enough," I said, shaking my head. "I know you've been sneaking around. I know you've been playing me for months. And I know you sure as hell didn't expect me to finally walk away." Her jaw tightened. That hit a nerve. "Is that what this is about?" she asked, tilting her head. "Your ego? You just wanted to be the one to leave first." I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. Her words weren't laced with regret. She wasn't trying to fix things. She was angry that I had beaten her to it. I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my hair. "You know what, Laura? I don't even care anymore." She blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me." "You heard me," I said, voice steady. "I don't care what your excuse is. I don't care about the full story. I don't care about you." For the first time, I saw something crack in her. She had expected a fight. She had expected me to be bitter, broken, desperate to fix us. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I grabbed my bag, threw on my jacket, and stepped past her. "Where are you going?" she demanded. "Somewhere you can't follow," I said without looking back. And then, just like before, I walked out the door, leaving her behind. Again, the night air hit me like a slap to the face, but I welcomed it. It was better than the suffocating heat of that motel room. Better than being trapped in Laura's presence. Better than watching her try to manipulate me into staying. She had followed me. She had stood there, knocking on my door at 3 a.m., demanding I explain myself, as if she was the victim. I shook my head, laughing bitterly as I walked across the parking lot toward my car. This was who she was. This was who she had always been. She didn't want me. She wanted control over me. I unlocked the car and slid into the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel with both hands. My head was still spinning from the encounter. How had I spent 9 years with someone like that? How had I let it go on for so long? I had ignored the red flags, excused the late nights, convinced myself that love meant enduring. But love wasn't supposed to feel like war, and I was done fighting. I exhaled sharply, started the engine, and pulled out of the parking lot. I had no idea where I was going. I just knew I wasn't staying. I drove for what felt like hours, taking back roads, letting my thoughts unravel with every mile. Somewhere along the way, I passed the outskirts of town, the places I never bothered going because Laura had never cared for them. The old diners, the rundown gas stations, the forgotten roads leading to nowhere. And then I saw it. A small 24-hour diner, glowing in the dark like some kind of beacon. It was empty except for an old pickup truck parked outside, and right then, that was exactly what I needed. A place with no history. A place where no one knew me as Laura's husband. I pulled in, parked, and stepped inside. The bell above the door jingled as I entered, and the smell of fresh coffee hit me instantly. Behind the counter, a middle-aged waitress glanced up from wiping a table. She gave me a tired smile, not the least bit surprised to see a man walking in at nearly 5 in the morning, looking like he'd just had his world ripped out from under him. "You want coffee or something stronger?" she asked, grabbing a mug. I huffed out a quiet laugh. "Just coffee." She nodded and poured a cup, sliding it across the counter. I took a seat in the booth farthest from the window, staring into the dark liquid like it might hold some kind of answer. The place was quiet, peaceful, a welcome contrast to the chaos I had just walked away from. And for the first time in hours, I let my mind slow down. But peace never lasts, does it? Because just as I took my second sip of coffee, my phone buzzed. "Laura." I let it ring. Then, another text. "Laura, Everett, pick up the damn phone." Then another. "Laura, you think you can just disappear?" Then another. "Laura, fine. You don't want to talk?" Maybe you'll want to talk to your lawyer instead. I froze. My lawyer? I clenched my jaw, gripping the phone tighter. I hadn't even thought about that yet, about the legal mess, about the house, about what the hell would happen next. But of course, Laura had. She had already moved to the next phase of her little game. Something wrong. The waitress's voice pulled me back. I blinked, shaking my head slightly before forcing a smile. Nothing I can't handle, I muttered. She gave me a knowing look, but didn't press. Instead, she poured me another cup and walked away. I stared at the screen again, my pulse hammering. I should have been furious. I should have wanted to throw my phone across the diner. But all I felt was exhaustion. Laura had spent years making me question myself, making me feel like I was the problem. I wasn't about to let her keep doing it. Not anymore. I locked the phone and shoved it into my pocket. She could call a lawyer. She could throw whatever threats she wanted at me. But she couldn't make me care, because I was done playing her game. I took another sip of coffee, leaning back against the booth. For the first time in a long time, I felt something close to peace. And no matter what Laura tried next, I wasn't going back. I should have felt more. Sitting there in that empty diner, staring at the phone screen, I should have been furious. I should have felt betrayed, broken, devastated. But all I felt was numb, like something inside me had finally shut down. Like the version of me that had spent years fighting for Laura, for our marriage, had finally just given up. I took a slow sip of coffee, letting the warmth settle in my chest, waiting for some kind of reaction to hit me. It never came. All I had was this dull, suffocating realization. This is who she really is. Not the woman I married. Not the woman I thought I knew. Laura wasn't sad about losing me. She was angry about losing control over me. And now, she was trying to drag me back in. The next message came in just as I was about to set my phone down. Laura, we need to talk about the house. You're not just walking away from it. I inhaled deeply through my nose, exhaled slowly. Of course. The house. The place where I had spent years building a future. The place I had thought we'd grow old in, raise a family in. The place I had been stupid enough to believe was ours. But now, it was just a building. A pile of bricks and memories I no longer wanted. And Laura knew that. That's why she was using it. Because if she couldn't get to me emotionally, she would try financially. I clenched my jaw, rubbing a hand down my face. I needed to be smart about this. I couldn't let her bait me. The waitress walked by, refilling my cup without asking. She glanced at the phone still glowing on the table and gave me that same knowing look from earlier. Trouble? I let out a quiet chuckle, shaking my head. You have no idea. She smirked. Oh, I think I do. I looked up at her, raising an eyebrow. She shrugged. You're not the first guy to sit in that booth at this hour, staring at his phone like it personally betrayed him. That actually made me laugh. A real one this time. She leaned on the counter, tilting her head. So? What's the damage? Divorce. I sighed. Something like that. Her eyes softened a little, but she didn't say anything. Just topped off my coffee again and walked away. It was weirdly comforting. She didn't ask questions. Didn't pry. Just acknowledged what I was going through and let me be. It was the first conversation I'd had all night that didn't feel like a battle. I sat there for another hour, thinking about what came next. I knew Laura. I knew she wasn't done. This wasn't just about the house or the money. It was about winning. And she would try everything she could to drag me back in. But I wasn't letting that happen. I had spent too much time reacting to her. Now, it was time to take back control. I paid for my coffee, left a generous tip, and walked outside. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows across the parking lot. A new day. A new life. I took out my phone, scrolling through my contacts. Then, I made the call. To my lawyer. It was time to end this. For good. I had always imagined that if my marriage ever fell apart, it would be some dramatic, movie-style moment. Fury, screaming, accusations flying back and forth like bullets in a war neither side could win. But the truth? It ended with a phone call. A quiet, calculated decision. One that Laura never saw coming. I stood outside the diner, the crisp morning air waking me up more than the gallons of coffee I just consumed. My phone was still pressed to my ear, ringing. 1, 2, 3. Then a click. Everett. My lawyer's voice was groggy. Too early for normal people. But I wasn't normal anymore. Not after the night I had just had. I need to file for divorce, I said, my voice calm. Steady. Unshaken. A pause. Then a sigh. All right, he said, his voice clearing. Let's do it right. You sure about this? I looked out at the horizon, the sun peeking over the edge of the world like a quiet promise. Yeah, I said. I'm sure. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and negotiations. Laura, of course, didn't make it easy. She tried everything: gaslighting, guilt-tripping, even pretending to be hurt by my decision, as if I had somehow blindsided her. But I didn't engage. I didn't fight her anymore. I let my lawyer handle it, kept my replies short, factual. The less I gave her, the less she could twist. And that's what drove her insane. For the first time, she wasn't in control. The house? I let her have it. It wasn't home to me anymore. It was a cage. A place full of memories I no longer wanted. She thought she had one. Thought she had gotten what she wanted. Until she realized something. I had left her with bricks and furniture. But I had taken myself. And I was what she had spent years controlling, manipulating, owning. Without me, the house was just walls. Without me, her victories were empty. And that was the best revenge of all. I moved to a new city. Got a new place. Started fresh. Some days, it still felt strange, like I was a ghost walking through someone else's life, like I had spent so much time being her husband that I had forgotten how to be myself. But with every passing day, I felt lighter. I laughed more, slept better, woke up without a tightness in my chest, without the feeling that I had to brace for whatever emotional trap Laura had set for me. For the first time in a long time, I was free. One day, months later, I got a text. Laura, I hope you're happy. No anger. No smugness. Just those 4 words. I stared at the message for a long time. Then, without replying, I deleted it. Deleted her. And finally, moved on.